While I have been playing Warhammer 40,000 since 2nd edition, 11th edition is definitely different to 2nd edition, so my experience in that isn't quite as relevant to 11th edition. That is why I've been playing 11th edition. And while you may not yet have put models on the table, you're gonna want to know some advice on what works, what doesn't work, and what the general meta is shaping out to be, because even if you don't care about meta, there are definitely some tactics you'll want to use to play the game better than you otherwise would. Now, I have done a predictions video, and it has mostly turned out to be true. Not entirely, mostly. So this isn't a, hey, just go watch that video, I have learned nothing new at all. It's mostly right. Hordes are good, but it's good depending on the points. 20 orcs for 150 points? Yes. 20 guardsmen for 145 points? No. And I also have information that's relevant to the timings of the games. Stuff that isn't just how to win the game related. Because setting up the terrain takes more time than it has in like any previous edition. Every game needing you to measure out the terrain layout to within 0.5 of an inch of 2 points, and it's not super easy to see because only half the board has the numbers, some of the numbers are incorrect, and orienting something on the diagonal can be difficult. Now, you don't have to match a layout perfectly, but they are a useful guide. It'll depend on the players as to being absolutely accurate or close enough, or only take the deployment map, don't use the app, and have big area terrain where the objectives are. The app sets up the board differently to the card deck, which has a take turn setting up terrain, and it doesn't have to be symmetrical. So know that if you're playing a tournament and you're expected to reset the board after every game, it's gonna be something you should do in the breaks between the games. It takes time. And that's assuming that there isn't people already playing on your board because their game ran over. Once the area terrain is out and you put the terrain features on, you can have any terrain features you want. It doesn't have to match the map and have the specific, not yet available, Armageddon painted or pre-painted or not painted terrain set. Give money to Games Workshop, but don't. I have affiliates if you want to get stuff. They have terrain sets already that are not the Armageddon set and will work just as well. But you've got to decide for each bit of terrain what is light, what is dense, what is solid. Your terrain will not match the Armageddon officially sold terrain, so you can have a, yeah, this is a 4-inch high corner wall, but it's marked in yellow on the map, so we're following the light terrain rules and tanks can move through it with no problem. Games will take longer in a couple of senses. First of all, there'll be more new players. New players will not be able to rush in and do a 2,000 point game in 2.25 hours. Do not expect them to. If you have been playing 10th edition, it'll take some time to get used to 11th edition and there'll be more rules to check. And then you'll find that the rule isn't in the core rules and you'll have to search through the app and that can take much longer. Generally, games are going to take longer until I talk about the meta of the armies, which comes later. Another part that takes longer is tracking a lot of things. Different primary missions to track for each player, which have 2 or 3 parts that you need to track each turn. Remembering to draw secondary missions on top of that, because when you have 3 things to do, that feels like 10th edition's primary mission, 2 secondary missions. All those 3 things are your primary mission. So remember to draw your secondary missions, and then you may have 2 to 5 ongoing secondary mission cards for each player to remember. On top of that, you have to track which units are hidden. You may want a token sheet or sticker sheet that has a lot of fun stickers that you can use to track completing actions, finding relics, marking terrain, things of that nature that you can get through my merch link in the description. I also have shirts. They are less good at tracking game states and more covering your torso. This is advisable, and there is a specific model of shirt that keeps your arms covered to prevent the sun from burning them. It goes up to the wrists, keeps your arms hidden. Hidden is a new rule for 11th edition, and if you played the Maelstrom campaign book in 10th edition, it's a similar sort of thing. There you couldn't shoot enemies over 18 inches in the first turn, or if they hadn't shot. But we're following hidden for 11th edition, which mainly comes up in the first turn. Then it rarely comes up afterwards, apart from a unit that's sitting on the home objective that doesn't want to shoot because then it would be shot back. The boards are very open. You can see from your deployment zone all the way into the enemy home objective. So having a unit hidden there is important. And while you can set up the boards however you want, and I very much encourage that, I prefer this kind of layout over the 10th edition tournament terrain. But that series of L-shaped ruins couldn't get much worse. When you're playing the game, combined with the benefit of cover, any -1 to hit is devastating. Because cover is -1 to the enemy ballistic skill, anything that's -1 to hit will stack with that. Having the benefit of cover twice, like from stealth and the benefit of cover, that doesn't do anything. That's just one lot of -1 to the enemy ballistic skill. But -1 to hit, -1 ballistic skill, those do stack, so someone with a ballistic skill of 4+, who would normally be hitting on a 4, is changed to ballistic skill 5+, and then -1 to hit, so they need a 6. Look how all you Hallowed Martyrs players come crawling to the Army of Faith with its blinding radiance. Except still, Hallowed Martyrs is pretty popular, especially if you want to do Combat Sisters. I'm going to have videos on all of our factions, and then we'll look at how to get started, how the detachments work, and what the major changes for our faction are. But aside from Blinding Radiance, which can affect multiple units and may be the best stratagem in the game to do this, any -1 to hit like Tunith Arawita, or the Chaos Sorcerer, which also works in combat, it's any attacks that the enemy makes, it's -1 to hit, extra good. Again, with the benefit of cover, it no longer does anything to armor penetration. So AP -1 is much better. Heavy bolters feel proper. Boosting up the armor penetration of your shots because of a castigator whose heavy bolters are no longer hindered by -1 AP, and add in Divine Guidance from the Army of Faith, that's much more impactful. You don't need to start that chain with an Immolator to remove the benefit of cover, which messes with line of sight and some casualties get removed. So it's much easier to turn the enemy's 5+ save into a no save, 7+ save. Bolt pistols insta-kill. What is this? 5th edition and 6th edition and like 4th edition, 3rd edition, many editions. Yeah, good times. So you don't need to start that chain with an Immolator or a Hellhound. You start with the Army of Faith stratagem to ignore modifiers. No more -1 ballistic skill. Affects multiple units from the Seraphim. Or Zephyrim. You'll never guess which detachment I've been playing. Plunging Fire does come into play. It rarely did in 10th edition. You had to be 6 inches up in 10th edition, and then you got +1 AP, and the way you got that was sometimes there was a really tall building in your deployment zone, and you could use the upper floor of that and maybe get extra AP. Because in 11th edition you only need to be 3 inches up instead of 6 inches up, you could be hidden and wait from a higher position to shoot. The enemy moves out to do their things, then you shoot them with +1 ballistic skill. The change to the distance is good. It means you're not just using the newer 40k terrain, like the Mechanicus gantries, the cathedral-y stuff. Instead, you can use your 5th edition terrain, which had floors 3 inches up. And if you wanted to use your 3rd edition terrain, and say that rather than 2 inches up or like 1.5 inches up, say that's 3 inches up, if that is your terrain set. And it costs you 3 inches of movement to get up there. How you decide terrain is up to you. The heavy rule lets you move up to 3 inches and still be able to shoot. So you can sit behind solid cover, and solid is a term, so even if there's doors or windows on the bottom floor, you can't be shot, you can't see through it. You're on the ground floor, you move 3 inches up to what in Britain we call the first floor. Ground is 0, up 1 set of stairs is the first floor, and you gun from behind solid cover, up a level, then you shoot with plunging fire. Battle shock is definitely worthwhile to cause in the enemy, because when you battle shock someone, they don't automatically recover, they have to pass a leadership test. And if you're battle shocked, you can't use stratagems like Insane Bravery to pass that battle shock test. So anything that can cause battle shock is much more valuable. Good Exorcist battle shock, if I remember that ability, but usually the Exorcist kills what it shoots. I cast Battle Shock at range? Very good. The most good. Auras at 3 inches or 6 inches are far less valuable. Don't rely on a Battle Shock bomb of everything within 12 inches from the Gene Stealer Cult Patriarch. Sounds like it's amazing, It's not even as good as Shadow in the Warp. And you probably will die afterwards. But any kind of battle shock caused at range, Ephriel Stern, an Adeptus Auroritas character with Divine Aspect within the Army of Faith, those are good. We have dispositions to play with now. 5 dispositions: Disruption, Recon, Priority Assets, Purge the Foe, and Take and Hold. Purge is the easiest disposition for most armies. You kill the enemy, that gives you victory points. You drew a secondary mission, it's about killing the enemy, you get victory points. You kill the enemy, they have fewer units to score their victory points. It very easily spirals. And Disruption is almost certainly the worst. Its main thing is doing a lot of actions, but it has to be adaptable to stop the enemy from doing whatever they have to do. So you have to be able to counter Take and Hold, you have to counter Purge the Foe, you have to counter Priority Assets. Whereas the other 4 dispositions are focused on doing a thing, and then they can specialize into doing that particular thing. Some of the missions feel weighed towards one side over the other. Some of them have difficult timings. Recon versus Take and Hold. The Recon player gets 1 victory point for each enemy killed in their turn. Destroying units in the enemy turn does nothing for victory points. Yet the balance is a little out. That's something Games Workshop will have to fix. Not necessarily soon, I'd rather play it out and see how we do. And if it becomes a problem that the majority of players are taking Purge the Foe, then changes may need to be made to the mission deck. Otherwise, wait a year and Games Workshop will release a new one. And then the app will be updated to have the new set of cards. I like the idea of asymmetric battles. I am used to asymmetric armies in Crusade. As long as you know the mission beforehand, you tailor your army to be the proper defender who is defending, or an attacker who needs to push through. But there's a lot more kill the enemy. We're no longer focusing on objective markers, as fewer missions care about all of the objective markers. Killing the enemy is where you get your points. There's only 2 actions in the secondary mission deck, and the primary missions only need a couple of actions, and that depends on your disposition. Take and Hold and Purge the Foe have no actions. Some of the actions you can do lots of at once, and others are once per turn. You don't need dedicated action units in your army. A 2,000 point army may only have 8 units on one side, especially if it's Purge the Foe. Bigger units that are harder to kill, because there's fewer actions to do, and it's harder for your opponent to wipe out the whole unit to get victory points. 2 characters in a maximum sized unit is becoming more common. That's good for sisters that like to attach characters, though less good because of how miracle dice work. We would only get 1 miracle dice for the block. There you need to decide how much you care about having lots of miracle dice from losing lots of units, which will also give your opponent many victory points, compared to having the big death balls. This is why I play Army of Faith. We have many other ways to get miracle dice. There are some bad parts for 11th edition compared to 10th edition in its gameplay style. You need all of the dice to roll when you fast roll. It mainly comes up for saves as the most important time, which means it's extra annoying that the launch box did not come with any dice. If there are 30 saves to make on 20 orc boys with 2 characters, you can't roll 10 dice, then 10 dice, then 10 dice, because all of the 1s are applied first, then all of the 2s, then all of the 3s, and so on. You don't know how many of them there are and what order the dice will come until you've rolled all of them. So you need 30 dice in a bag that you can roll all at once, which meant that one table that didn't have enough dice between them switched to a dice rolling app just for that dice roll. And that's not something you're meant to do, because while it's a friendly game and it's totally fine, they are very easy to hack or fake. Games Workshop's app is easy enough for tracking scoring during a battle, though I can't tell if it's a mistake or not. Anything that's end of game scoring, it adds to Battle Round 5, meaning that your 15-point cap on primary mission also includes that end of game scoring. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. The app is not a great way to check the rules easily because the app is hard to search. So if your opponent says a thing is a rule, you just gotta believe your opponent. Oh, there's a bonus called Go to Ground that applies to solid area terrain, right? Extra 3 inches on hidden. Does it apply to units that are obscured by the solid terrain, or does it apply to any unit on the area terrain that has a solid terrain feature? Or is it not related to solid, but related to dense? I won't tell you. Someone in the comments might. But good luck finding that on the app through search alone. Other rules like persisting effects. It's not in the core rules, but it's in the app. It's under units and models. That sounds like a normal place for that rule to be. I searched duration and lasting effects and got nothing from the app. So I wish there was a better source like a PDF where you can use Ctrl F to search for certain words. Sometimes in 11th edition the only way to know the rules is by stating them wrong and then getting a correct answer. So my index errors video is doing well. I might have overdone it with 40 minutes in one video, whereas last time I did it, it was 18 minutes, then 8 minutes, then 16 minutes. So this was 3 videos worth in one. I may be able to get another one out of it, but it would be a lot shorter. If you know of any other errors not mentioned in that video, please put them in the comments of that video. And know that for 11th edition, the rules are pretty good. How we play the game and get those rules, not so good. Love 40k, dislike Games Workshop. As before, as now, have a great day of 40k.